and see if I can help answer Doc's question here. We have 22 public schools in Citrus County. When 214 happened, which was February 14, 2018, the Parkland shooting, we had 16 deputies assigned to cover those 22 public schools in Citrus County. The school board for more than a decade has only paid about 25% of the total cost of the personnel. It has paid zero money towards the capital and the operating expenses. If you can't see this back in the back, every capital item over $1,000 we have to track. And they have a life expectancy. Vehicles have a life expectancy, weapons, tasers, everything has a life expectancy. And you have to have a replacement cycle for that. For more than a decade, my predecessor didn't make the school board pay their fair share towards this program. And so it was being eaten out of other budgets. Now the school board will come back and tell you that they were only getting a certain amount of money from the state, and that's all they were going to pony up. That's what they're still saying today, and yet they're getting nearly $1 million out of this SB 726 money that's out there. When we went back and looked at this, I wanted to be as transparent as possible so that the public knew exactly what the cost is. The cost is the cost. If I hire a new deputy to come in off the street, they have to have 20 weeks of additional training before they ever get out and push a green and white patrol car by themselves. That's on top of 19 and a half weeks that they've had through a law enforcement academy. So a deputy sheriff on day one, when they get out and they've completed all their training, has 39 and a half weeks of training under their belt. And a lot of mentoring from a senior deputy who's part of this agency, who's been part of the fabric of the success stories. The Guardian program scares the hell out of me. I will kid you not. My biggest fear is that a young student or faculty member gets killed by somebody carrying a gun that doesn't know what the hell they're doing. That's the bottom line. And this is not the Wild West. Let me give you an example of one of the things that scares the hell out of me. There was a shooting in Dallas, Texas, not too long ago, and Texas is an open carry state. How many people were backing up the law enforcement officers, running to the sound of gunfire to help those law enforcement officers when they got ambushed out there? Zero. Zero. Pulse nightclub. Florida is a concealed carry state. Okay? Pulse nightclub shooting that occurred. There were a great many people killed because people were fearful. The guy who did the killing was a former Wackenhut security guard. Okay, they changed their name, but he's a former Wackenhut security guard. I don't want anything to do with anything like that where somebody has been fully vetted, trained, and they've got eyes-on supervision coming from my office that's out there daily interacting with those people that are carrying a gun. And I certainly don't want a guardian, no offense against folks who have a concealed weapons permit. I had a concealed weapons permit after I retired from active duty, even though I didn't need one. My wife has one too. But no offense against that. But if I'm in uniform, I come around a corner like this, and there's a bad guy over here with a gun. I'll tell you what, they got one choice. Drop your weapon or I'm going to shoot you. And then I'll pull the trigger. I'm not hesitating. We're not supposed to know who the guardian is. The guardian is supposed to be unknown to everybody out there. The only one who may know is the sheriff and the guys who go out and do the training. So, wait a minute, let me check. Are you on this list? No, that's stupid. That's absolutely.
You're right.
That's Tallahassee bureaucracy at its worst. And that's what jeopardizes folks. So Doc's my partner. He's a detective working for the Citrus County Sheriff's Office. George is a detective. I come around the corner. He's a guardian. He sees me and says, okay. The very next person he sees coming around the corner, he's going to say, who the hell is this guy? He's a guardian. He automatically takes his gun out and challenges this guy. This guy says, what the hell are you talking about? I'm a deputy sheriff. He says, well, I'm a school guardian. And then you have blue on blue gunfire exchange, and how many kids will die? That's a lawsuit looking for a place to happen. We can't do this program on the cheap. If we're going to protect our courthouses with as many sworn law enforcement officers in there, why can't we put one deputy sheriff in Citrus County on every school campus on a full-time basis?
They should do that throughout Florida.
They absolutely should. They absolutely should. It was a poorly thought out process without input from the field, from the operators who are out there doing this.
Talking about the politics.
After I get past the first year expenses, the recurring costs are much, much cheaper. But I can't go out and do that. I don't have, there's not one tree out here that grows money on it. Not one. If I have to buy vehicles, if I have to buy radios, if I have to buy the weapon systems and the uniforms and everything, we get through the first year costs, these first year costs get cut down severely, and then for everything after that, it takes $150,000 from the county commission, and it takes $150,000 from the school board. And I've got sworn law enforcement officers on every campus out there. I am within $400,000 of the startup costs being fully covered. I presented to a member of the school board, in fact, the chairman of the school board, a proposal where if they would agree to a 5-year lease program, I can lease the vehicles at 1/10 of the cost and field them. And we have patrol cars. Because if that deputy needs to make an arrest, if that deputy needs to do a Baker Act, if that deputy needs to do any other thing there on that campus and interact with somebody, that deputy's got to have a patrol car. It is absolutely foolhardy and stupid when it comes to being responsible as your sheriff to say you can put a deputy sheriff or anybody else on a campus. They don't have a radio, they don't have all the proper equipment, they don't have an AED, they don't have a first aid kit, they don't have an active shooter vest in their vehicle to protect them. And we're asking them to charge off towards the sound of gunfire. When I say, look, let's suck it up now and let's do the right thing and put sworn law enforcement officers on those campuses. Let's get the county commissioners to help. Let's get the school board to help. I don't have a, but if I was an independent taxing authority, I'd be out there beating the drum every day telling the taxpayers. For the cost of $2 per head per citizen in this community, I can protect every child in this community with a sworn law enforcement officer on campus. $2 per head. And give me the startup cost that's out there that's about $3 per head, and this whole thing goes away. That's all it takes. I can solve that problem. But I can't grow money on a tree, and I certainly can't get past this here because we're growing 9 additional people to have out there. And the reason why it's 9 is because I'm accepting risks for the first year to help the school board out and also help the legislature out. But I'm going to beat a drum in that damn legislature next year, and I'm going to hold those legislators accountable and tell them they need to get off their butts and fund this program. We want to have safe schools, not only in Citrus County, but all across the state of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, these kids are the kids who are going to be our law enforcement officers, our firefighters, our doctors, our lawyers, our dentists, our nurses, and all those other practitioners out there in the future. If we don't take care of them and make them feel safe, they will live in fear like my 3 grandchildren are right now because they don't have school resource officers in any one of the schools down in the county where they go to school. Sure. Yes, ma'am. She had a question.
Are your deputies or your resource officers allowed to touch a child?
If they have to, yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay, because there was a county, the young man who was a retired deputy, he's a resource officer in their school. The child was jumping from table to table in the cafeteria. He wasn't allowed to touch the child or do anything. And that's not happening in our schools, right?
I was a school resource officer for 22 years in Citrus County. I touched a lot of children that had to meet a couple of requirements. Did they break the law and could I arrest them? And you can do that for disruption, destruction of property, hitting a teacher. Those are all crimes.
According to
Our
Citrus County.
No, it's Florida statute.
It's Florida statute. It's Florida statute.
But
So
the
if
school
they
board has to
actually broke
No,
the
ma'am.
law,
No. I enforce the laws of the state of Florida. I don't
Yes.
enforce the laws of the school board.
we don't do, yeah, school
I'm
board
not,
policy
I
is not.
am a
intended.
constitutional officer. My authority flows from the Constitution that was established by the founding fathers of our state and the founding fathers of our country. I'm not asking anybody for permission to enforce the laws of our state.
So the bottom line came down to when they broke the law, I felt okay to say, come here, young man, and we're going to the office.
Okay.
And if they resisted me, then I was at elementary school, so I picked up a lot of things.
Yeah.
I never
You could
arrested
pick
him.
'em up.
I was never going to arrest an elementary kid.
But these
The guys in the
schools,
high schools and the middle schools,
but
they
these
get
schools have that safe zone thing where they don't arrest anybody and they whatever.
That doesn't exist in Citrus County.
Not in Florida.
Was there one other question over here?
Yes, I had a question. You made mention that you needed one deputy in each of the schools.
That's what SB 7026 says.
Okay. However, if you've got sick leave, you've got vacation time.
Yes, ma'am. And
don't you want to go for more?
Well, here's what I did. I told the school board and I told the county commission, We need to have a relief factor in there. Now, the normal planning relief factor is about 1.2 per every position. In some places, it goes up to 1.4. I accounted for 24 things that could take that school resource deputy off of the campus over the course of the calendar year. One thing is sick. If they have to go to the dentist, if mom is sick and they got children to take care of, that deputy can't go. In the old days, you could go ahead and take your sick leave, and that campus would be covered remotely by another deputy who was a school resource deputy. We can't afford that risk anymore, because as soon as the bad guy knows that there's an unprotected campus there, who are they going to hit? They're going to go to the unprotected campus. I would go to the campus where there's a school guardian if I wanted to do something. Why? Because they don't have all the training in the wherewithal. Yes, ma'am. I know. I'm late for my graduation, but I'm passionate about this because I believe that the best solution for the children of Citrus County in our future is to have deputy sheriffs on every campus and to have adequate supervision over them. This now is a different game, and the game changed on 2/14. And for the school board members and the superintendent say, well, you don't need supervision. How many assistant principals do they have in these schools? How many other folks do they have in the administration of these schools? And to say that I don't need supervisors? Hey, I'm the guy who's doing this. I run the numbers the way I run them, and I'm going to take care of our kids. But I can't do it without money.
Good job.
Hey,